remember the first time we met? Any notable first impressions?
Absolutely. You've had so many good investments. I think this is a bad one, I think, but I'll bring it up. I tried to buy a company that you were an investor in a long time ago. And the founder at one point had to bring in the cavalry because he was feeling out negotiated. And he brought you in. I think you did such a good job negotiating that we ended up not closing the deal. But that's probably been 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Um, well, when I can say my first impression when I met you, Pedro, and I told you this later, is that you are a very rare combination between being extremely smart, a doer, but also a class act in the way you treat people, you engage, you give an impression of maturity, long term thinking, sophistication, and also empathy. And it's tough to find those things into one person.
Coming from you, I take that quite highly.
I'm being honest.
What's one good piece of advice that you've received as a founder or leader that's really stuck with you?
Someone told me once, if you feel you have a weakness, always take your weakness and use it as your competitive advantage, which is interesting. So I work on my weakness, and then I put that up front, and I work on it, and I explain. And of course, because you are probably weak on that dimension, um, you're not starting by what the perception of winning, but you are addressing at first what the other party might think that is your weakness. So
That's the part I like about it is when you put it on the table, you've disarmed it as a disadvantage against you. I'll tell you one that I got, and since we're talking about, I think, the connective fiber between LATAM Tech, and that's one of the things that is great about our community, is we really do help each other out a lot. And I got one piece of advice. It's somewhat basic, but it's been super important for me, which is there are many ways to lead, and there are many cultures. And I don't think one's righter than the other, but you really need to stay very true to your way of doing it. When you start trying to lead as people you admire lead or other people that you've seen be successful is where you start going wrong. And that really has stuck with me through the years, which is I need to do it my way. Even if I've seen a better way of doing it, I can try to learn that. But if it's not very instinctive to me, it's probably not going to get me very far.
just be yourself, follow your way. What keeps you up at night as a leader?
I have, I think, two recurring nightmares that keep me up a lot. One's a little bit more conceptual, which is what are three kids in a garage in downtown Sao Paulo or downtown Lima about to invent or figure out that completely disintermediates the businesses I'm working on. And I think that's the kind of mentality that all of us that have been successful in this space have, which is we're always assuming someone's about to eat our lunch. The other nightmare that I have, this one's more practical, is am I really making the tough decisions around human capital and people that I know I need to be making because I can get someone better or I have someone in the wrong place, but that I'm not making because dealing with those decisions is so difficult. And I try to really push that nightmare on myself because I think that's probably the biggest difference if you're being a good leader or not.
Right, right.
Yourself?
For me, I think the way I would summarize it is I feel like when you build a company, you kind of build this motion, you build like a movement. And then that includes your team, their families, your clients, other constituencies. It's almost like you represent an ecosystem. And then I feel the responsibility that it has to deliver for each constituency. So that keeps me up at night. This is like my movement, my machine, my franchise. Is it going in the right direction? Am I delivering? So I take that as I would call it responsibility to constituencies, very harsh to myself personally.
And you know what? It's great that you say that, because I think that explains why you're such a hub for all this ecosystem that we've built, and why you're such a central figure, because you've taken that upon yourself. I didn't know this. It's the first time you've told me this, to make sure that everyone that's involved with Riverwood, with your companies, is receiving value. Is that
It's kind of part of my business and how I.
it explains a lot of how you've become so central to everything we do. If we could instantly gain mastery in any skill, what would the skill be?
For me, table tennis.
We'd both like to learn how to program, but I have a better one. I'd like to become an expert cocktail mixer.
There you go.